Breadbox Media programming is brought to you by Jack Kane Ford. Find your next Ford Tough vehicle at caneford.com. Woodhill Community Center. Have a hand in the heart of the city. Support their mission with your donations at woodhillcommunitycenter.org. Toyota in Nicholasville Superstore. Online consultants are standing by right now to help you find your next Toyota. Visit toyotaonnicholasville.com. Lexus of Lexington, home of the best-selling Lexus IS. Find yours today at lexusoflexington.com. Did you know that half of America is single? Hollywood has never produced anything like this before. The Dating Project, a groundbreaking documentary that follows 5 single people, ages 18 to 40, as they search for authentic and meaningful relationships. There is no script. There are no actors. These are real people trying to find love and happiness in an age of swiping left or right. From Empower Pictures, Paulus Productions, Family Theater Productions, and PureFlix, you can now own The Dating Project. Save the date by visiting thedatingprojectmovie.com and go a step further and help others in your circle date differently by partnering with Ascension Press. Visit shop.ascensionpress.com to acquire the companion study guide. The Dating Project movie is now available on DVD and digital download on Amazon, iTunes, and Walmart. Please visit thedatingprojectmovie.com for details.
Well, hey, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Lisa, Hendey, and Friends. The summer is flying by too quickly, and it's just been amazing, but it's going too fast. And I hope your last week was just as fun as mine was. It's so always great to be back behind the microphone, and I think you're really going to love this week's episode and getting to know our guest this week. Our guest is Drew Pultorak, who is the Sales and Distribution Manager with a little organization you might have heard of, which is Bishop Robert Barron's Word on Fire. And we're here today to talk about a very, very special new project that Bishop Barron is launching, and that's an amazing package on the Mass. And I thought before we got into our interview with Drew that we'd just listen to a little bit more about everything that there is to learn about in this great new digital series from Bishop Barron. So here's a little look at the Mass.
The Mass is a great call and response between Christ the head and his mystical body. The church is the community which has been called out from the world, out of the realm of sin, of hatred, of violence, into a new world, the mystical body of Jesus, where love, forgiveness, and nonviolence reign.
We have been transfigured by our time on the Holy Mountain, hearing the word of Christ, responding to it, being formed as the mystical body. Christianity is not a philosophy primarily. It's not a moral system primarily, not a sociology, not an ideology. Christianity is a relationship with Jesus. And we can relate to the Lord in all sorts of ways, but there is no more intense, no more privileged way than at the Mass.
So if you get a chance, you want to definitely go over and watch the video version of that. But I think you can get a sense, even from the audio of this special trailer for Bishop Barron's new project, The Mass, how sort of epic this really is, this project. And so joining us today is Drew Pultorak. And Drew, as I mentioned, is employed with Bishop Barron's Word on Fire as the Sales and Distribution Manager. Word on Fire, I know everybody knows, but I'll just say it for those who maybe have forgotten forgotten. This is a nonprofit global media apostolate that reaches millions of people around the world to draw them further into, or maybe even back to, their Catholic faith. Drew graduated from Franciscan University with his degree in theology. While at Franciscan, he met and fell in love with his lovely wife, Ashley, and the two of them live in the beautiful village of Glen Ellen, Illinois, with two precious children. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Thanks, Lisa. Glad to be here.
Great to have you. There's so many things I want to ask you about, but I know probably anybody who's one degree of separation away from Bishop Robert Barron probably gets this question regularly, which is, wow, how did you get that job? So how did you go from, I know doing a little bit of background checking onto you, that you have beautiful gifts in photography and in marketing. How did the opportunity to join Word on Fire come about?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, honestly, it's a gift from the Lord. I went to school at Franciscan, studied theology, loved it there, learned so much, and I really, reignited my faith. My wife and I, we got engaged my senior year in college, and I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. I toyed around with maybe going to get my master's in mechanical engineering. I decided not to go down that route, though. Instead, just kind of looked around for some jobs and just, wanted to get a good job, before we got married. And so we graduated December, and we were getting married in April. So I had 4 months, and I'm like, okay, I need to get a job. I need to be able to support my family. And ultimately, I ended up working in car sales for about a month, in the month of February, which is one of the slowest times of the year to sell cars.
Were you living in Illinois at that time?
In Illinois, yep.
Ooh,
so it's like a snowy winter, nobody coming in. I just go to work all day, just standing around talking to the other salesmen. Nobody came in to buy a car. And it was getting to the point of just, I don't know what what am I supposed to do? And Ashley told me, let's start to pray to St. Joseph, and see what he can provide. I started praying to St. Joseph, and I went to CatholicJobs.com, and I saw the job posting for Word on Fire. And I remember the description was kind of broad, kind of vague with what it was. And I was like, I think I could apply to that, but I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to get into Word on Fire, because everybody knows Word on Fire. And thankfully had an interview, and they hired me, and I love it. I love working here, and honestly, it's really cool because, I love photography, I love marketing, I love computers, engineering, things I like my mind into things, and it's really cool to see how working for Word on Fire, and I'm able to use those gifts, and I really enjoy what I'm doing, even if it's setting up things at the warehouse to ship out properly. It's really cool just trying to troubleshoot and figure out the right way to get things done. So it's a blessing, and it's honestly a gift from God that I'm able to work here.
That's fantastic. It's a job that really combines your skills with your degree and your heart too. It's really amazing. So kudos and way to go, CatholicJobs.com. That's awesome.
Right.
That is awesome. Now, Was that back a couple of years ago that you went on board with them?
Yeah, so I started 2016, so I've been here just a little over 2 years now.
So refreshed my memory, is that around the time that Bishop Barron was coming out to the Archdiocese of Los Angeles?
So yeah, he had just moved out. I believe it was 2015 when he was named bishop. So yeah, as you know, he's from the Chicago area, and this is where he started Word on Fire. I work out of the Chicago office. We have a number of locations now around the country where people work. But the main base was still in Chicago. He moved out to LA to become bishop, and a number of guys went out there. The guys who do production and are more hands-on with his YouTube videos and the podcasts and things like that. But the sales and merchandising people are still out here in Chicago, which was great because, like I said, I met my wife at Franciscan out in Ohio. But she's from the Chicago area. I'm from the Chicago area. My job's here in the Chicago area. So it's real great that I'm able to, still work for Bishop Barron and, be close to both our families.
Yeah, that's an amazing gift. And I know from being friends with Brandon that Bishop Barron is wise enough about his team to understand that people can work in various locations and still create great art together. So that's fantastic. And the other question that I just wanted to ask you personally is kind of how, I know that you're very savvy in marketing. I actually saw, a video that you were doing on an interesting marketing project, and it's interesting to me, though, that there's something a little bit different about being someone involved in sales and marketing in an evangelical or ministry-oriented operation. How does working with Word on Fire differ from, what you might experience if you were to take like a corporate sales job?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, number one, like you said with our mission statement in the beginning there, Word on Fire, our mission is to reach people and draw them into the Catholic faith, drawing them into a relationship with Jesus. We have tons of free content. We have YouTube videos, we have the podcast, we have homilies. But a big component, too, is all of our physical DVDs, our study guides for parishes, and all the funds from that go to support the ministry. So every time you buy a DVD, unlike a corporation that's just, going after the profits, all of this money goes back into the ministry to develop new programs and get to reach out there further. So, what's really neat is, with all our marketing strategies and our sales strategies, it's twofold. Number one, to make money for the ministry so we can continue doing the work we're doing, but more importantly, getting these materials in front of more and more people, getting more people to see all these videos and to be converted by them. And ultimately, evangelization is all about, getting people to fall in love with Jesus Christ. And in a more general way, it is like marketing. You're trying to show people, that Jesus is the Savior and that we need that we need Him. So in a way, marketing and evangelization both go hand in hand.
Well, perfect skill sets combined with a great knowledge. So we know from Bishop Barron's work in the past that he takes a different approach toward his ministry, and he's unafraid of going to places like YouTube. He was, one of the early YouTubers in the church, and we've recently seen him at, I think it was Google or Facebook. He's completely completely unafraid to go out into into the weeds and to plant seeds. And that's a beautiful thing. And so why this particular project at this time, the Mass? Maybe you can start off by just kind of giving us an overview of what the project is, what it contains, and then why we have it at this time in Bishop Barron's ministry life.
Yeah, that's another great question. So Bishop Barron's most famous for the Catholicism series, which is a 10-part film series that he released back in 2011, and that's been on PBS. It's just been seen by millions of people, and that really, a lot of people, when they think of Bishop Barron, they think of Catholicism. That's kind of like the go-to. That's his main project. And one of the episodes in that series is actually on the Mass. He dedicates a whole hour-long episode in Catholicism about the liturgy, about the Mass. And what's kind of neat now is he's actually, and some things in the Catholicism series, he's actually fleshing out a little bit more. So you saw that he did an episode on the lives of the saints, and he chose, I think it was 4 or 6 female saints or holy people in the Catholicism series that he focused on. And 2 years ago, he came out with the Pivotal Player series, which is a follow-up to that, and it was 6 hour-long episodes about more saints, about more people that we can, model ourselves after, to go towards the path of holiness. So that's something, too, with the Mass. Now that he's bishop, now that he's kind of in charge of the whole Santa Barbara region, his big question is, why are people staying away from the Mass? The Mass is the source and the summit of our faith. That's where we can encounter Jesus. And ultimately, that's what the faith is about. It's about that relationship with Jesus. And where do we see him? Where are we most close to him? In the sacraments, and ultimately in the Mass and in the Eucharist. So this is a 6-part series. It's based around, I think each lecture is around 20, 25 minutes apiece. And he just walks through the Mass. And it's amazing, all these pieces of information he's able to draw out from things as simple as the Creed. One example, I have a degree in theology, so I know, a fair amount of things about the faith. But of course, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Right.
But Bishop Barron, one of the things that he was talking about was the, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten not made, consubstantial with the Father. Something we say every week at Mass. And this kind of rolls off the tongue. You just say it all the time. But actually, what does that mean? And he drew it back to, of course, the time of the Council of Nicaea with Arius. And the debate of homoousios or homoousios. Is Jesus both 100% God and 100% man, or is he like a demigod, like part God, part man. And he talks about why, in order for us to be saved from our sins, in order for the crucifixion and the passion of our Lord to mean anything, he has to be 100% God and 100% man. And he says, the phrase in the creed, God from God, light from light, true God from true God. He's directly from God. He's not, some other, he doesn't come about any other way. He's, God's son. He said those are fighting words. Those are words back, with Arius and, St. Nicholas. Like those, back in the day, that was such a controversial issue. And now it's in our creed because it's so foundational to the faith. And that just, when I go to Mass now, I always think about that. And, it used to just be something I said, and I was like, oh, wow, like that is really something, so foundational.
So it's a 6-part series, and I know from taking a look at the online listing for this that there's both streaming options or digital, like DVD options. Are you finding that people are still doing a lot of DVD ordering of products like this?
Yeah, we have definitely a fair amount of people that still order the DVD. It's convenient. You can have a physical product. Bishop Barron also talks about, the Billy Graham principle of once you watch something that's impacted you, giving it to somebody else to watch. And he has a video on YouTube about the Mass, and he says, when you get your DVD, when you're done watching it, give it to somebody else. Have them be transformed by it too. But bringing up the digital and the DVD option right now on the website, mass.wordonfire.org. There's like a special edition version we have since we just came out with this series, and it's a bundle offer. You get the DVD and you'll get instant streaming access, which is awesome. So even if you give the DVD to somebody else, you'll still have the streaming access to watch for yourself in the future.
That's amazing. And I do find with Bishop Barron that every time I have the opportunity to hear him, I automatically bring my notebook with me because I know I'm going to be taking copious notes because Bishop Barron does not dumb anything down for anybody. He's so accessible in his style and his delivery, but he is very lofty in the concepts that he's teaching. And I noticed even when he goes into these tech spaces that he doesn't shy away from, really stretching us to use our intellect to pursue full understandings of these topics. Was there any conversation about how simple or complicated these teachings should be on the Mass?
Yeah, I think that's something really big with Bishop Barron is, he doesn't dumb down the faith. The faith, there's so much in our rich tradition, and, it's the way he talks is so accessible. Sometimes he uses words that it's like, what does that word mean? Is that like some Greek word that just made up? But you understand it, and he explains it so well, and you just come out of it learning so much. And he's so grounded on St. Thomas Aquinas and all the great theologians, Balthazar, St. Benedict. It's so amazing how, for these type of talks, he'll go through and kind of make notes beforehand what he's going to talk about. But even just like in his YouTube videos, he'll go in with very little amount of, preparation, like on the talk, and he's just able to pull out so much wisdom. He's just, very, very talented at preaching.
So that's the wealth of obviously years and years of diligent study and a daily being in the Word that gives him that facility to be able to do that. So, his portion of it, his teaching is largely a substantial part of this particular project. But one other thing that makes it so special is the production quality. And I know that you partnered on this project with Spirit Juice Studios, which is just, those guys are just amazing the work that they do. And so that results in something that's not only theologically sound and stretching for us, but also just frankly incredibly beautiful. Talk a little bit about what the decision is to employ the resources of somebody like Spirit Juice to do a project like this and why that matters.
For Word on Fire, the number one kind of route that we use is beauty to reach people. Beauty is like the lure to bring people in into the faith. Like you look at our website, very, very much focused on, there's a lot of beautiful art on there, very very modern design. Like we keep up with all the styles with everything, and using somebody like Spirit Juice, who is the best Catholic production company out there. We're able to get really, really cool camera shots and lighting. So the video, each video has a little introduction clip. It has some B-roll footage of like the Santa Barbara area, the church they're in. Throughout the talk, they did different footage of different masses that is interplayed into the into the talks. But then like in each video, there's like a 1 to 2 minute section where they in their studio, Spirit Juice, they had this mass that they filmed. So it was all done, in the studio with the lighting and the incense and a very, very close-up view of, the priest looking at the Eucharist, the incense smoke and, there's beautiful music playing along with it. And just, seeing that, being so close, like, to those actions, because a lot of times, Bishop Barron even says this in the video, we'll go to, some people daily Mass. You go to a Tuesday morning Mass. Well, Tuesday morning Mass is the same thing as being in heaven. Mass is heaven on earth. So ultimately, the Mass is beauty, and whenever we can, with Word on Fire, we always try to go to the most, the beautiful, the top-of-the-line quality we can. And, you really see that, too, with the Catholicism series, being on PBS. The Pivotal Player series was, nominated for an Emmy. We always do the best of the best because we're able to reach more people and get them to encounter the Lord through beauty.
That's significant. And I think that one thing that strikes me as you talk about having this kind of close-up perspective, and Drew, you're a dad and you're a dad of littles, but one of my pet peeves as a mom was always I didn't want to take my kids and sit in the back row of the church because I know I get distracted back there. And I think kids really deserve to have front row seats for this amazing, miracle that happens every week in Mass. So this project, the ability for us to kind of have an up-close view. I mean, even those of us who are at Mass every week, we might not be able to remember the last time that we really paid attention to those little intimate details of the Mass. And I know the project isn't for kids, but I do think even those little segments are showing them, parts of the videos and kind of explaining it to them from their level would be a real gift. Now, you guys are getting ready to release some pastoral resources for parishes, right, that will go out with this project?
Right. So we, with all of our programs, we have study materials that were written, specifically for everything Bishop Barron talks about. It expands upon that. So we have, leader guide, study guide. We have a little booklet. And if you actually buy the DVD right now, we give the booklet as a, as a free PDF. But the booklet's called Why Stay Away? And it goes through, a lot of common questions that people have about the Mass, like, why do I have to go to a Catholic Mass? Why can't I just go to, like a Protestant service? Or, what is the Eucharist? And, ultimately this, this series is a tool for evangelization, both to enhance our own personal prayer lives and to increase our intimacy with the Lord, but also to equip us to be able to go out to our friends and to our family and invite them to the Mass and to, help them understand the richness of it.
Let's
Along
talk
with
about
that, too,
that.
I know.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
In the works, it's not official yet, but I know we are planning on coming out with a resource for children too. That will probably be later this year, but we are planning on doing some resource. That'd be great for Catholic moms like yourself to be able to bring the series along with their children.
Awesome. Well, it might be my grandchildren by the time you get along with it. And no, I'm not expecting any grandchildren yet, but I am an older mom. But that leads me, Drew, to the question that I had about, it's interesting to me that it seems like a lot of conversation in the church these days is about how to reach people of your generation. That there's a generation or two in recent years of young adults that we don't seem to be able to understand why those who aren't actively participating in the sacraments, they may have been brought up in the faith, and yet, you find them at brunch on Sunday morning instead of Mass. I'm just curious for anybody who's kind of your age and is active in their faith, how can a tool like this be used to kind of reach out to friends that that have this in their heart but just aren't currently practicing their faith?
Yeah. I think ultimately just, opening the discussion with them about what the Mass is. Growing up, there's 5 kids in my family. My parents are very devout. We would go to, Mass every weekend. My parents actually played music at Mass. So we were always very integrated into, going to Mass. Like that was, that was like our thing. But I never, I went to Catholic schools my whole life too, and there wasn't really good formation. So I never really understood, the Eucharist is actually Jesus. Like I realized that in high school. I was like, wait, what? Like nobody ever told me that. Like I didn't know that. So just like, a lot of even, the basics of the Mass, like people don't understand the richness of it. Like if you could tell somebody like right now, you can experience heaven, like you can experience a miracle by going to Mass. It sounds kind of weird, but it's true. It's true. Like you are experiencing, heaven on earth through the liturgy. I think another big thing too, for me, just certain parishes, put emphases on different, different things with the liturgy. I know like one thing that really helped reignite my faith was, the beauty of the Mass. Because I grew up, in the Chicago area, going to a parish that was, more modern in design. But when I studied abroad in Europe, and you go into, all the Gothic cathedrals, and you see, wow, the witness of all the people who built this monument to God, and to see the beauty of it, it's the same exact Mass. If you have Mass in a conference room versus Mass in Notre Dame Cathedral, it's the same exact thing, but that beauty, helps enrich it. Looking at the stained glass windows, looking at the statues, realizing that your guardian angel's with you, that you're in the presence of, the community of saints during the liturgy. I know that's one thing that's helped me a lot, because the Mass is something that reaches out to eternity. It's not something that's in the moment. Like we are going back to the moment of the Last Supper. We're going back to when Christ gave himself to us in the Eucharist.
I love that. And I'm reminded as you're speaking of a recent experience that I had. I've had some great blessings to attend Mass in some pretty crazy places. And most recently, one of those places was at a women's prison in Kenya in a vacation, or not a vacation, but a trip that I took earlier this year. And that Mass, they told us they were giving us the shortened version, came in just over 3 hours. And it was largely in a different language. But one thing that struck me about being at Mass there, and also in other places where I've had it, I've had the experience of being at Mass in very, very foreign languages, is the fact that we can, because the Mass is universal, I may not know the words that are coming out of the priest's mouth, but in a way I do, because I know the gestures and where we are in the Mass and specifically what's happening. And so I can't wait, having watched this series, to actually have an even better frame of reference for that and a deeper understanding. So I think that's a beautiful gift of this that'll help me when I'm out in new places. So Drew, the project is out, but your work on this is still ongoing. Just what is an average day at work like for you these days?
Every day is so different. It's amazing, like all the content that Bishop Barron's able to, crank out, and he has this, his whole team here. It really is a team effort. We have, Brandon Vaught, who works for us. He does a ton of amazing things with, creating like the ebooks and creating the podcasts and, getting all the, content up on the website. From this production, I didn't do too much early on, like with the filming of it. I was here in Chicago when they were filming this. But, all the production guys, there's so many rounds of edits they have to do, and, working to make sure that the subtitles line up correctly. It's both in English and Spanish, so getting somebody to do the Spanish voiceover, so that, parishes, even if they're bilingual, would be able to watch this. All throughout the film, too, you'll see there's a lot of artwork as Bishop Barron's speaking. So we had somebody go through our designers here and figure out what art represents the Word on Fire ethos, what's beautiful art that is go along to what he's saying in the video. And what's cool too about the art, Spirit Juice are able to do this effect. It's called 2.5D, so it kind of looks 3D. You'll see it in some documentaries, so it's really cool. So it kind of pops out a little bit more. But there's a lot of beautiful art. There's a lot of work that goes into these productions. And now that it's out, mostly my job now is to make sure we can get all the DVDs out there, and we've been selling a lot of DVDs. This has been probably the most successful program in the last couple of years for us. So getting more DVDs in stock, making sure we can get them all up from the warehouse, communicating with our customers, and just making sure we can deliver good quality product for everyone. But it's cool too because even though some of the stuff is very like, yeah, I'm doing my job. Like, I'm making sure these tracking numbers are going into the system. But it's great because it is so much part of the evangelization. If the Word on Fire team weren't here, Bishop Barron wouldn't be able to reach as many people. It really is a team effort. We all have a very unique role. We're all very flexible in what we can do. And it's really amazing, and especially with the help of God, too. I mean, this would not be possible, without the Lord. And our big intercessor here at Word on Fire, St. Therese, the little flower, who's Bishop Barron's favorite, along with Thomas Aquinas. Those are the two saints that we pray through the intercession for a lot.
And St. Therese is my personal patroness, so I always love any shout out to St. Therese is awesome in my book. And I think I saw something recently on the Word on Fire website, or maybe in an article someplace, that was mentioned that if Word on Fire were a shrine, it would be the most visited shrine like in the history of the church, or the number of people that have been touched through the work of Bishop Barron in his work all over the world and online. So that's an amazing, amazing gift. So I'm just curious now, Drew, if somebody's been listening and they want more information, or maybe they just want to check out the series, what's the best thing for them to do?
Yeah, so we actually have the first episode, the first 25 minutes, up online for free for anybody to watch. So if you're listening to this, you can go ahead and check it out. It's mass.wordonfire.org/episode 1, number 1. So EPISODE, the number 1. And you can watch the whole episode of it there for free. And then if you want to buy the DVD, there'll be a button there on the page, too, that you can buy the DVD. And like I said, we have like a special bundle right now. It has all the Mass videos. Bishop Barron did a series on the Eucharist. That's included in the bundle. There's a video about heroic priesthood, a couple other things in there. But, check it out, mass.wordonfire.org/episode 1, and you can watch the whole episode 1 of it right now.
That's awesome. That's one of those. But wait, there's more. Don't miss out. Right? So much goodness, so little time. So we'll definitely have that link in our show notes. Wherever you're listening to the podcast, there's usually show notes accompanying it, and you can go through those, or just come over to lisahendey.com and I'll have links to that as well. Drew, I know that you're a busy guy, and as we speak, there's excitement happening in your family and a holiday getting ready to be celebrated. So I'm just wondering if there are any closing thoughts before we let you get back to real life.
Yeah, no, I think ultimately the beauty, the richness of the Mass, being centered like on our Lord, every single day growing closer and closer and closer and closer to Him, and going to Mass, which is the source of grace. So check out, just watch the first episode of it and enjoy it, and you'll gain a lot from this. And like I said, if you do get the DVD set too, pass this on, talk to your friends, talk to your family about this, and that's really what the evangelization is about. The new evangelization is using these new methods and new means of bringing people back to the faith. And Bishop Barron does a great job with it, so you don't have to worry about necessarily formulating everything perfect when you're talking to people, because you can show them Bishop Barron, and through that help them grow closer to our Lord.
So all you have to do is pop some popcorn, maybe get a nice bottle of wine or some wonderful soft drinks, and invite your friends over. It works out perfectly.
Yeah, do it. And like I said, too, we have study materials. So if you want to do like a small group, in your house or at your parish, you can get your parish involved with that, and they can, do a study with, all the parishioners if you want to go through this.
That sounds awesome. Well, Drew, can I have you back on next time Bishop Barron has something big going on? Will you come back on the podcast and tell us about it?
Sure, I'd love to.
Awesome. Well, in the meantime, I wish you all the best. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and thank you so much for all the great work that you're doing. Friends, again, our guest today has been Drew Pultorak from Bishop Barron's Word on Fire, and we've been talking about the Mass. Definitely, as I mentioned, come on over to my website, lisahendey.com, for show notes and links to this and all kinds of great information. But seriously, I just want to say that even if you've never sat down and watched one of Bishop Barron's videos before, this is a great place to start, and you will be renewed and enriched, renewed and enriched in your faith journey with Word on Fire and the great resources. As we round out this week's podcast, I just want to remind you that your feedback is always welcome. Please give me an email to Lisa at CatholicMom.com or anywhere on social media that you are. It's likely I'm there too. I'm at Lisa Hendey in most of those places. And I want to thank our friends at Breadbox Media. You heard them at the beginning of the show, and they make this podcast possible. So please tell a friend about Breadbox Media and check out the other great podcasts that are going on over there. I thank them for their production help and for letting me be a part of the Breadbox family. Until next week, friends, I hope you have an awesome week, and I'll see you next time. God bless.
Introducing the redesigned CatholicSingles.com, featuring new ways that put the spotlight on the person and their faith, not just a profile picture. For the past 20 years, faithful Catholics have used CatholicSingles.com, and the reimagined CatholicSingles.com website is ready to help single Catholics take the next step in sharing meaningful relationships with other faithful Catholics. Remember, CatholicSingles.com for faith, fellowship, and love.